Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Kamil again with another episode of On the Air. Welcome and thanks for joining. Today, I am joined with a very special guest. His name is Omar Waseem. I'll give you a little bit of background about him. We both have worked on some side project with an Islamic institution named Tawasau, and we did a lot of events together. And he was our go-to person for anything camera, media, social media or everything. So he was the guru for everything in that space. So I wanted him to be on this show and talk about his journey, because what I feel is, especially when as immigrants in the US, we have always been pushed and to be part of the norm, as if be a doctor or be an engineer, get into other fields like that, which is, of course, it doesn't, it's not a bad thing because it's more stable and things like that. But what about media? How about getting into, doing these creative things? So I thought Umar would be a perfect guest in here because he went through that stages. And mashallah, now he's in university. So with that, Umar, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Okay. So I guess I'm a creative director based in the Bay Area. Right now, I am a freshman or an incoming freshman at UC Berkeley studying electrical engineering and computer science. But everything up until this point, I think, in my life had nothing to do with computer science. I started off editing videos in middle school, trying to do my own YouTube channel. That didn't work out, so I ended up editing other people's YouTube videos, and that was like my first job, if you could say that. I kind of made my way into photography from that, and then from photography and video editing, I became a filmmaker. I did that all throughout high school. That along with like various side projects. I've worked with brands, I've worked with other creators, I've done solo projects, and then I guess now here I am.
Yeah. So what was this something that you were passionate about since you were a kid, or what got you into this media? Was it watching YouTube videos all the time? Like, I can do that. I can do better than that. Like, what drove you to this
Yeah, so I guess
field?
in late elementary school, I would watch way too much YouTube. Like I would just be
Yeah.
watching tech videos specifically all day until my parents
Mm,
would like take away my iPad or whatever.
wow.
And then eventually I was like, you know what? I watched all these videos. I can do this myself. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna be the
Mm,
next MKBHD, and I started
mm,
working on a tech channel, but I didn't have tech and I didn't have money to buy tech. So what I did was I started making little Windows 10 tutorials on like how to change like your Windows like background, or how to like
mm.
change the color of your cursor. And those like Indian tech support guys on YouTube, I was one of them,
Right.
except like in
Yeah.
seventh grade. And then
Yeah.
I realized over time that like that wasn't really working out for me. But I knew how to
Was it
video
because
edit.
of, yeah. So was it because of timing, or is it just because you weren't getting views, or it was something that's like, hey, nobody's watching me, so I'm not doing
Yeah, it was a mixture of A, no one was watching me, B, it felt like a
it. Yeah.
waste of time, and then C, like I don't think like I wasn't very happy with the content I was making, because like I said, I
Mm,
wanted to make tech videos, but I was stuck here making like random
yes.
tutorials. So I
Right.
was like, okay, I've taught myself how to edit this far. I'm gonna go and try to edit other people's videos. And it's
Mm,
kind of hard to get into the creator space without being a creator yourself, or like at least being established. So I reached out to a bunch of people saying, hey, I'll edit your first few videos for free, and then if that works, I'll become your full-time like proper editor. So I went to this first guy
yeah.
because I knew he had like a group of friends his age. At the time, these guys were probably like 16 or 17 years old. Like a bunch of creators. I think they had tens of thousands of subscribers on YouTube. And so I started editing the first guy's videos for free. Over time, I moved over to like also editing his friends' videos. And I guess that's kind of how it started.
So what kind of software and stuff did you use for editing? Was it using like something that you had to buy, or there's some open source stuff that's available that people can start doing it?
Yeah, so initially my first ever video was done on Windows Movie Maker, or at least my first few videos.
Okay.
That's horrible, would not recommend. And then I started borrowing my dad's like what was it? It was like a MacBook Air 11 inch or something like that. There was no
Yeah.
power in it. Like it would always overheat whenever I had too many
Mm,
clips in. And I started off using iMovie and his Mac. And then over
yeah.
time I realized that you can't really do too much with iMovie. Like it's a great starting
Mhm.
software, but over time I tested out Sony Vegas, that didn't work out well, and now I've kind of stuck with Premiere Pro, and After
Right.
Effects my whole time since then.
These days, I mean, YouTube is the place to go. Especially, I have a 8-year-old son, and he's obsessed with YouTube channels. I mean, these kids are now watching. people like Lanky Box and this and that. They're just people just acting in front of in front of the camera. Not really high production. It's not like high production value, but it's just people just in front of the camera. So, what do you think that phenomena is on why is YouTube so popular and regular TV is like fading away?
I think at its core, people just like watching people. You know, like you always get
Mm,
stared at by little kids on the subway, or even just like
yeah,
we like following social media because we like keeping up with other people's lives. And YouTube
mm,
is at its core like most of YouTube content is just produced by a single person. You know, no editors, no expensive cameras, no like huge setups. And it's
right,
just
yeah.
interesting for us to go look at other people's lives and just see kind of what it's like.
And then, so what got you into? So you went to the edit from editing the YouTube videos for other folks, and then you got into more professional because I know you have, and we'll share that site with you. And Umar has a pretty cool site. He has all the videos there. So when did you transition into that professional phase where you had these high quality videos and stuff that you were making? Was it
Right.
in high
So
school or was it before high school or?
it was right as high school was starting. So what happened was I took a merit badge, like a Boy Scout merit badge in my Boy Scout troop for
Mm,
photography. And so after I did that, I actually thought photography was super boring. But by this time, I had known
mm,
how to use a camera and I knew how to video edit. I came across one video that I've watched at least 100 times since then by Sam Colder called My Year 2016, and it's just like this montage
mm,
of this guy, his year, while he travels around the world, basically making content for brands. And I was like, wait, this guy gets like paid to like skydive and travel and go to
right,
Bali and Dubai and like
right,
racing G
yeah,
wagons and all that. And it seemed interesting to me.
yeah,
So I was like wondering if I could actually at some point get paid to travel. And
mm,
from there, I was like, okay, all I got to do is learn filmmaking. I know photo, I know video editing. It can't be that hard, and it wasn't. And after
mm,
that, I just started like filming random videos at like my Boy Scout trips. Like we'd go camping, and I'd make like little videos. And from there, I think it just slowly progressed into making friends with people who already shot content for brands, and slowly I just kind of made my way into
mm,
like the creator space. The first
yeah,
major breakthrough I had was actually one of the projects we worked on together with the Lasso.
yeah,
That was like
yeah.
my first legitimate, like I was on like W2 form. That was my first like in-person
Wow.
proper job
Yeah.
doing content creation for the Lasso.
That's when you did, and we'll share that video with you as well, the Morocco trip and other stuff. So very, very nicely done. So, and then what would you say is, because I know growing up especially we're in the Bay Area, especially in the very strong Muslim community, how is people getting into media and doing editing and doing YouTube being perceived as, do they think of it as like, oh, just a side thing, just a hobby for him, but he's going to be focusing on becoming an engineer and not really take that seriously? Is that, how did you deal with that?
Yeah, so initially, my parents were like always very supportive, alhamdulillah, but initially they always thought I was wasting time when I would be making these YouTube
Yeah,
videos and editing for other people. And then I started, because I wouldn't have a PayPal, so the money would go to my dad's PayPal. And then they slowly
right.
started seeing that, like, okay, this kid's actually like kind of doing something,
Yeah,
and maybe there's like merit in it. And
yeah,
over time, that like progressed into like, okay, now suddenly the project's getting a little bigger, or like the people I'm connecting with are a little bit like, have larger followings. And then over time, my parents like very quickly started supporting like anything I did, whether that was like
mm,
creative or even stuff outside of creative stuff. Um,
yeah,
but as far as like the rest of the community, I don't think it was ever negative. If it was, I was never
yeah,
told it to my face. Uh, I
right.
think I think it was
I think it
always
would have been,
seen as more of a side thing.
yeah, it would have been negative if you did a horrible job. It's like, oh, that Umar sucks, man. The stuff that he's building, it's like, then I can see that being negative.
Yeah, maybe.
But your, yeah, but your work was really good, and it still is. And then to that aspect, I mean, what would you say to other kids who have this passion and then they're looking into, yeah, I can. Umar's talking like this. I also edit my videos. I want to have my YouTube video as well. I want to do what he's doing. What would you say to them? Is it,
Yeah, of course.
uh,
Well, for one, I think it definitely it's definitely possible. For me,
yeah,
it was very easy just because apart from like school and like academic things, and I guess at the time I was in Hivs, and apart from that, my whole life would
yeah,
revolve around creative stuff. So I was either doing one or
Mm.
the other, and it was never hard to balance.
Yeah.
My social life wasn't huge at the time, and so I never really
Mm.
had like conflicting things. Nothing would suffer because I would get too caught up in anything. So if I were to give advice on it, I would just say you have to be very clear on what your end goal is. So for me, I wanted to get paid to
Mm.
travel. Like that was the end goal. Like I wanted to literally go on a trip and everything's paid for, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so I knew kind of what I had to do to get there, and I had to start making trips that were travel videos that I made myself. So I would go camping, and I started small, and then
Yeah.
as you kind of do it for longer, you work your way up until that like final end goal. And so the
Yeah.
other thing is, if you want to, because there's so many like different fields in the media. There's like
Yeah.
going on like a production set like NBC. There's like making Netflix documentaries. There's making YouTube videos, Instagram videos, just becoming like a TikToker. I think all you got to do first is figure out where you want to be and then work your way back from there.
Yeah.
And as
And
far
then
as
what do you
convincing
think?
parents, that's probably one
Yeah.
of the bigger ones.
Yeah.
I would obviously don't go against like what your parents say,
Right.
but I need to word my words carefully here.
Or maybe just as long as you show your PayPal growing, that's the way to
Yeah,
do
pretty
it.
much. Like if you can show them, like
Yeah.
the faster
It
you
wor-
can show them that you can make something out of it, the better. Is what
yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say.
Especially now looking at the youth, the Muslim youth. Uh, what are they? Do you sometimes see the type of shows and TV shows and the type of productions that being put on in mainstream media? You think that's having a negative effect on the Muslim youth, or is it what is your perception on the current type of content people are on TikTok or TV or YouTube? The type of content that's being pumped right now, you think the youth, your generation, is it being impacted in a certain way?
Is it being impacted? Like 100%. I think
Yeah,
pop culture right now kind of runs the world, or hip
yeah.
hop culture. That
Mm.
definitely influences the entire world. But as of like,
From a negative perspective, are people like
yeah,
I hear people where they're now questioning their faith. They're like moving
right.
away to and, things of that nature. Do you see a lot of that
Yeah,
happening?
yeah, definitely. I'm not going to list
Yeah.
any like specific issues, but there are
No, no,
definitely
no.
stances
Yeah.
that the media takes that isn't very aligned with Islam, right? And
Right.
so a lot of people, myself included, will have to end up navigating that and figuring out whether they
Yeah.
want to align themselves with the like the mass, like the what the media says and what probably a lot of their friends are saying, and then what's like
Right.
Islamically correct. And for me, that was
Right.
honestly never a huge problem, just because my close circle is
Hmm.
very like they're Muslim, they're
Yes.
religious, and I've never had to deal with that. But I also know that like some of my closest friends who go to like normal public school and they go to college, they're in around just other people all the time. They've definitely had
Right.
times where they're questioning their stance on, you know, just
Certain
certain things
issues.
that
Yeah.
are.
Do you think there's a place for mainstream media with how Marvel and DC and they have a huge impact on the youth that Muslims should do more in entertainment, but making it much more cleaner entertainment?
Yeah, definitely. One of my reasons for getting into video, or at least justifying it to my parents, was
Right.
the rest of the world has millions of dollars of marketing and the best cameras and all that. And as Muslims, we should also
Right.
have that type of firepower, like in our
Right.
arsenal, as you
Yeah.
will. And so, yeah, I definitely think there should be a large shift in that the content we consume and the content that like our little siblings and our kids eventually
Mm. Yeah.
consume is Islamic, because I spend maybe 5 hours in a week with my friends when I was living in my parents' home, right? 5 hours a week. But
Mm.
watching YouTube, I would spend hours every single day. And if that content that I'm
Mm.
consuming is bad for me, and or it like changes, it'll change what I think subconsciously. Whether or not I realize
Right.
it, it might be too late by the time I do. And so there has to be, like halal content for
You're
people
right.
to watch at a young age, or halal podcasts, halal music. Not that there isn't, I just think there needs to be more.
Yeah. I definitely agree because I see it as we do spend a lot of time and money and effort, like you said, in marketing and especially in different countries, trying to mimic Hollywood, trying to mimic
Hmm.
Bollywood, trying to looking at them as influencers and taking whatever they produce, we just consume it. but we have a lot of talent in our ummah as well. We should be
Definitely.
collectively coming together and building institutions, supporting each other, and really bringing really great content. Because what I see is I do find a lot of documentaries and stuff that I'm sure people, majority people are not that interested, especially the youth.
Hmm.
Like, oh, another documentary, another historical this, another historical that. I think we need to get more into mainstream entertainment media, but do it in which is according to the principles, right?
Right, and I mean it's definitely
Yeah,
happening. Right now, there's a lot of people from both Muslims and non-Muslim watching the Turkish side of entertainment
yeah,
right
there are
now.
two goals. Yeah, yeah,
Right, and I think I've never actually watched any of those episodes, but they did something right because basically everyone I know watches it. My parents watch it, like my best friends all watch
yeah,
it, and I think whatever they did right, if that could be mimicked among like across the rest of Muslim media, I think that would be beneficial. So right now, if
yeah,
I want to watch a Muslim, if I want to watch something on YouTube, like a Muslim vlogger, for example, there is
yeah.
no guarantee that what I'm watching is 100% halal. If I want to
Mm,
watch YouTube usually, and I'm like, like Ramadan, for example, what I would watch on YouTube
yeah,
would be basically just like Umar Suleiman
yeah.
videos and like,
The lecture videos. Yeah,
yeah, basically those. But if there was a way for
yeah,
me to like still be able to watch fully halal content and not have to
right.
worry about what might show up, or like if I was able to just give my
Yeah,
iPad to my brother and I wouldn't have to worry about what he might end up clicking on YouTube.
exactly. Yeah. I know we were talking earlier was that a lot of folks, especially when they're entering into the college phase and looking into colleges, they always say you need to go to Cuman, you need to go to these after school classes and learn coding and
Yeah.
do all that stuff. It will help you getting into good schools. But in your case, it was different. Tell the audience how it was different for you.
Right. So I guess for background, right now I'm at UC
Yeah,
Berkeley studying, I think I might have said this, electrical engineering and computer science.
yeah,
So if in ninth grade, if my goal was solely to get into Berkeley for EECS, I would have gone ahead and done programming classes and, probably spent a lot more time on academic extracurriculars than I did. But I was honestly just kind of doing whatever I thought was fun for the most part. And so
hmm,
a lot of my application last year was themed around creative pursuits. So one of the things I mentioned was that I mentioned the story I mentioned earlier of like getting into
hmm,
filmmaking and using that to kind of like tell stories and whatnot, cliche stuff like that.
right, yeah,
That was probably one of the biggest points of my essay. And then the only reason I did that was because I found it fun. If I had gone down the route of I'm going to make my entire application process around showing how good of like a CS student I would be, I don't think I would have gotten in. I think if you want to get into like a good college, it makes sense to structure your essays in a way that just shows you as a person and shows like your legitimate interests, because these college
mm,
advisors read thousands of applications of people who are all look the same basically, because they all wrote it from
yeah,
the perspective of, look, I'm like this perfect CS student, I'm this perfect like bio student, I'm this perfect law student, future law student. Yeah, honestly, it was just like all me writing about stuff that I thought was interesting. And
yeah,
maybe there was some change in the fact that I didn't have to submit an SAT score or COVID or something changed
yeah,
from that. But overall, I think if I had hugely changed the way I structured my essay, it would not have worked. And so to answer like your
yeah,
initial question,
yeah,
if you want to get into a good college, in my opinion, it doesn't mean you have to act like you already are part of that good college. Have
mm,
your passions,
yeah,
have like things you like to do that have nothing to do with your major, and you're still probably going to end up better off, because even if a lot of the time if you're pursuing something you're passionate about, you'll make something out of that whether you go to college or not for that thing. So I made filmmaking way before I applied to college, and to be honest, if I wanted, I probably could have continued filmmaking and not gone to college. Maybe I wouldn't end up
yeah.
where I want to end up, but I probably could have made it work.
You ever wanted to go to a proper film school and become a
No.
director? Like if you were going that path
Yeah,
as a full, did you ever want? Yeah, yeah.
my stance
Was
on
that
film school
ever a
is
goal? Yeah,
yeah, my stance on film school has always been that it's a waste of time unless you want to get onto like big sets. I think
yeah.
especially with social media, the creator economy, anyone who wants to just get into
Mm,
filmmaking and media would be much better off going the independent route and just like, yeah, my friend Tyler is a 16-year-old in like Vancouver, and this man's making almost like $100,000 a year just by without going to college. He's still in high school. Like, I don't know how he balances it, and he's crazy. He's on like Netflix shows as set assistant and all that without ever going to film school. And there's so many people who make it huge without ever doing anything remotely similar to film school. And so I always thought that it was a waste of time. I wouldn't have gone into it if I ever wanted to be a full-time a full-time
So do you think that
filmmaker.
the tides are changing as far as the way the content is being produced these days, where there's actually now full-time people who want to choose their careers as YouTubers, and there's a very lucrative career. People making, like you said, $100,000 million. Has that changed the game, you think, for filmmakers, where they don't have to be like this, like you said, big sets, and you got to go to this film school? Just have a camera, have a passion, and just be yourself. Is that what's working these days?
If you asked a kid if maybe 10, 20 years ago what they wanted to be when they grow up, if their mom's not around, they're probably going to say astronaut. If their mom is around, maybe they'll say like doctor or engineer. But they want to be like an astronaut, a firefighter, a race car driver, whatever it is. Right now, if you go ask a kid, he's probably going to say he wants to be a YouTuber. And that kind of tells you all it needs to tell you about where everything is shifting. Right now, I think the biggest thing is the creator economy. People are making much more money on their creative pursuits than even their full-time 9-to-5 job. And so, I definitely think that the creator side is a viable means of actually.
From my perspective, when I was growing up, we always wanted to go into creative stuff, but we don't have enough venues when you were growing up. We didn't have YouTube or things. Now I think people they now have a way to at least try it out, right? It's not like they have to.
And also, when COVID happened last year, a lot of these advertising agencies were temporarily shut down. And so all these advertisers turned to solo creators or people who live with their friends, like these people who have Instagram followings, to do their advertisements. And it all goes back to the same point of what I said in the beginning. People like watching people more than they like watching these large, huge, high budget productions.
Yeah. And then what do you think is the next big platform? I mean, now before it was, I think Facebook is gone for your generation. Which is the TikTok, or what do you think is the next big?
I think, as much as I don't like to say it, TikTok is definitely where everyone spends the most time. YouTube, I feel like, even though people from a creator perspective really dislike YouTube, as in creators just hate the way YouTube treats their creators, I think YouTube or TikTok is where the future is going to be at. People very much dislike Instagram. Whether or not they can actually get rid of it is a different question. But I think it's definitely between YouTube and TikTok, mainly because TikTok has a lot of time spent on the app, and it's easy for anyone to blow up, or it's possible for anyone to blow up. And on YouTube, it's just that's the most stable income you can have. If you have 1 million subscribers, you're set, just based off brand deals and moving people to Instagram and even just your advertisement revenue. That's true. In my podcast, I started asking all these creators if they could have 1 million followers on any platform, what would it be? And for the most part, everyone kind of said YouTube, just because it's kind of known that having a following on YouTube is probably better than a stable job, depending on what you want.
Wow. Yeah, I think YouTube has completely changed the ball game. That's why we have our channel on YouTube as well. But what about Facebook and Snapchat? You think they're gone now, or they're?
Snapchat, actually, it seems as though it's dying, but it's not. They have a lot of users. They're still growing at an insanely fast rate. Whether or not my friends use it is a different kind of question. But especially overseas and stuff, people still use Snapchat a lot. It's also a very cost-effective way of advertising if you know how to make the advertisement right for Snapchat. And so when I'm looking into marketing tactics for another project that I've been working on, Snapchat seems to be something I'm definitely going to be looking into in the future, specifically because of the age range of people that are on it. It's perfect if you're trying to target early young adults or teenagers. And then Facebook, I don't think so.
And then, so tell us about whatever you can tell. I know you're working on a pretty stealthy project around this area. So anything you can share with the people?
Yeah. So I guess last year I took a gap year off school. I graduated high school a year early and decided not to go to college that year. And that was mainly for the purpose of working on this startup idea I had in, I think, junior year of college. or sophomore, junior year of college junior year of high school. Yes. And so
Yeah.
trying to see what I can say about it. It's a social app that solves a problem that I had in high school and that I know I'm going to have in college, and basically all my friends are going to have in college. The easiest way for me to put it is it's basically like Snapchat meets Twitter meets Eventbrite or like meetup.com without any pictures.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, well, thanks, Omar, for joining us. It's a great conversation. I mean, we can talk
for having me.
for hours because it's great to learn. And if there's anybody out there who wants to get in touch with you, like I'm sure there's a lot of young folks who watch and it's like, hey, yeah, I want to talk to Umar about this, how you did this, how that. The best place I think is your website, right? Where we can share if they want to contact you or.
Yeah, my website has my contact information, but also like feel free to DM me on Instagram at Omar Waseem.
Okay.
And yeah, I'll reply on either.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Umar, for joining, and thanks everyone. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. But thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Assalamu alaikum.